and get started. Again, thanks everybody for being on the call today. It's Thursday, September 3rd, 4 Eastern, 3 Central, 2 Mountain, 1 Pacific. And on the call, it's titled Being Found Online with Google's new 3-pack local search results. And the reason we're doing this is because a few months ago, Google changed their algorithm, or I guess maybe more correctly, the way they display local search results. CPAs and accountants typically are local businesses, and so you're going to be impacted positively if you've figured out how this works, but negatively if you haven't. And so today is kind of a tutorial for you to kind of follow along from a do-it-yourself standpoint. Obviously, I work with clients across the country, and we help them do a lot of the marketing to attract new clients. This is a portion of it, and since more and more advertising and lead generation is done online, that's why this is important for you to know. Google doesn't make a habit of actually going out and making announcements that they change. They just kind of happen, and so you kind of have to be on the watch out for what this is. And if you're not paying attention, like I said, it can hurt you from a attracting new clients standpoint. So let's go ahead and get started real quick. Next screen today, my goal again is kind of give you a DIY, do-it-yourself, how-to overview of how to be found online. And obviously the goal is attracting leads that turn into monthly accounting clients or tax clients. Take your pick. Here's a quick example of something in the email, or if you received the actual newsletter mailing that I sent out last week. The 3-pack, this is what it looks like. Now, if you look on your screen, I'm drawing a square around it. This is an example of one of my clients, Paul Sullivan, out in the Washington, D.C. area. This actually helps turn into this, which is he emailed me, was it last week, 2 weeks ago, and say, hey, we got a compliment from a tech company I saw yesterday. They came from Google. I have to laugh. He's late 50s, early 60s. Young people, 25 employees, owner was 24. She said, I'll give you one thing, you really have that Google figured out. Not a client yet, but hired into the batter's box through you and Google. 2 weeks later, I just talked to him a few days ago. They did hire him. He estimates they're a $12,000 a year client. And so, obviously he's happy about that because this is probably how they found him. He has 25 reviews, 4.5 stars, not all 5 stars, not all perfect, but compared to everybody else who have 0 reviews, no reviews, he gets chosen, and they're in his marketing system, and so he gets a new client. This obviously isn't a one-time occurrence. It happens more often than you think. But it's just a good example to give you. Here's another example. This is Ed Newton. He is a CPA out in Charlotte, North Carolina, Ballantyne, I guess city or suburb on the south side. He's got a little bit more competition, but this is the 3-pack and how it looks if you do a local search with him. He happens to have 38 5-star reviews. Now, there's somebody else there that has no reviews, and there's somebody else here that has 29 reviews compared to Ed's 38, but they have 4.8 stars. This is pretty amazing. 5-star reviews, nobody ranked him lower than a 5. But at any rate, the point is this tax season, 6, 7, 8 months ago, however you calculate it, he acquired 70 new tax return clients, and he estimates, and his staff estimate, that 50 of them said, when they asked him, here's how we found Ed, we found his website, which is tied to the local search results in Google. So that's important, obviously, if you can pick up that kind of volume in terms of clients. He did some other advertising on the radio, but that really didn't turn out, and so that's important. So things like that, will help you if, again, you get the Google thing figured out. Let me give you a real quick background. If we've never met before or we've never talked, my name's, again, Jeff Bell. I spent 20 years in corporate sales and marketing, managing teams of, salespeople up to the 400 range, responsible for revenue of over $70 million, operating budget worth $10 million. And in some of these companies, I did a ton of advertising. Magazine advertising, satellite TV advertising, direct mail, through the fax, radio, broadcast and cable TV. In one company, we were actually spending $30,000 a day in advertising on TV. That's $150,000 a week. And so you get pretty good at that when you're spending that kind of money, because if you're not, you can lose your shirt real quick. Profits can slip away, and that's a whole other webinar about how we did that. But at any rate, after 20 years of that, I started as a marketing consultant, and in May of 2001, before 9/11, and Troy Patton, I think most of you guys, if not all of them, are part of Troy's program. You're either active or you're an alumni, but Troy hired me in 2007. I helped him start the Coach Patton program. You know, the quick story is he had a non-compete after selling his practice for over $6 million, and so he started mutual funds. Now he has 3, the Archer funds, and is doing really well with that, and still works with accountants and CPAs across the country to help them grow their practice and, do investment services and financial services. And so in 2009, he had a lot of people in his program that needed help on a marketing standpoint, and so I started helping them, doing some of the things that I did with him with those, and that's how we got started in this niche. So let me give you a quick history about all this. If you're not a Google or an Internet geek, this is how Google and the Internet has replaced the phone book for newspaper and local advertising. The Internet started in the mid-'90s, and then Google came on board, late '90s, early 2000s. Now they have 70% market share for search when it comes to search worldwide. That number ebbs and flows from month to month, but it's about that. And there are estimates, was it 2 years ago, it was 43%. Last year in 2014, I saw it as high as 59%, saying that of all searches, that higher percentage, the estimate is that those are local searches, and those are people looking for local businesses. Local businesses, anything from 2 to 10 miles, sometimes depending upon your geography, 20 or 30 miles away. People looking for, roofers, plumbers, restaurants, auto repair, things like that, retail businesses, but also professional services. They're looking for dentists, they're looking for CPAs, they're looking for accountants, tax preparers, chiropractors, things like that. And so in the retail shopping world, the estimate or the calculation in surveys are that over 80% of shoppers do some kind of online research before buying. This is obviously big during, the winter months and the Christmas season. And I think in professional services, you can probably estimate that that's very similar or even more, because a lot of this stuff in the retail world, you're buying a gift or a prize, it may be just a couple dollars or 50 or 100 or something like that. But in professional services, if you're going to hire an accountant or a CPA, same thing goes for dentist or attorney or, some kind of, chiropractor. But for a CPA and accountant, a lot of times your clients you're going to know more about them than maybe their spouse does. And so from that standpoint, I think somebody is going to do a little bit of research online to see, what's this person about, what's this firm about, what do they do, how do others think about them. And so the research is in a couple different forms. One being testimonials on your website. You ought to have those if you don't. Some of the template sites don't really allow you to do that. I suggest that you work with them to do that if you do. Reviews, you cannot have enough of them. That's what this webinar is all about. Google, you can get reviews on Google. Yelp, Facebook, for a long time now, has the ability for you to put a tab or a page in there, and you can get Facebook reviews on your Facebook fan page. And YouTube. Now, YouTube, it's not so much a review, but you can take your reviews that you get, audio testimonials we use a lot of, and these Google and Yelp and Facebook reviews, and you can turn them into a YouTube video that then you can post on YouTube. So that's another way that you can demonstrate that people like you. And then last but not least, recommendations on LinkedIn. If you don't have a LinkedIn profile, it's free. You ought to have one, and obviously you ought to build your network. And then there are other places too, and I'm probably leaving out dozens, if not hundreds of these places, but reports. There are paid for firms. Angie's List is one of them. I happen to be in the Indianapolis area, and that's one of the paid subscription models that you can actually get into. And so having reviews on there is another way to have people find you. And so I want to make sure everybody can hear me. On the next page, it starts, and this is a little quick history of how the 3-pack works. You have, basically back in 2000, Google only showed organic results. They didn't have any kind of local search. Then they had the 10-pack. Now, or a few years later, probably late 2000, they changed it to the 7-pack, and this is an example here. It's hard to find these anymore because, again, they've all changed, but that's what they did. They had a 7-pack. This is an example in New Hampshire of somebody that's actually looking for an auto repair, and this is what it looks like now. I just did this a day or so ago, and so what turned into 7 when people are looking for auto repair is now 3. This is important because if you were one of the top 7, here's like Nashua Foreign Auto, and you're able to stay in now this top 3. They had 9 reviews whenever this was taken. Now they have 6. That's weird, but they're still going to get calls. But you can see all these other ones, Sullivan Tire, Goodyear, Midas, they don't even show up here. Certified Automotive Solutions has 4.6 stars on 17 reviews, so they're going to start to get the majority of the phone calls. And so that's the key. That's how, when I was back showing you a little bit about Ed Newton and Paul Sullivan as examples, they're showing in the top 3, and so kind of by default, they're getting phone calls and clicks to their website as opposed to people that aren't on there. And so let me show you a little bit. Let's see if we can go here about what we think the call distribution looks like. And this is, if I can jump in here, this is a good example of this is a live page. I've searched for Bethesda, Maryland CPA, and then you get, in this case, the local results here. Let's see if I can get my pointer again. Local results box is here. That's what people tend to look through to. This has kind of replaced the organic results, which are down here. You have to scroll down to get that. Then you do have the paid search or pay-per-click or Google AdWords over here, and some people do click on these. And if you can see here, I do have, Paul is running Google AdWords. It's under the My New CPA, Sullivan CPA, and we have 2 lines of the ad, 30 minutes, no obligation. It gives his address. It shows his reviews. It mimics what we're doing down here, and you can kind of click through to that and get to his landing page, and I'll cover that in a second. But this is the kind of the layout where most of the people now, we think, from a click and do research standpoint, are either going to click on somebody in here in this box. Chances are, if they're in a hurry and they're doing any kind of fast research, you're going to stand out if you have all these reviews and somebody else has none or very few. And maybe, just maybe, they're going to scroll down. Let me see if I can get my pointer back. And they're going to look and see what else they can find down here. You'll notice that here, and this again is a pretty good example. There's the competition. There's an organic result. 1, position 2. Paul has position 3. This is what I talked about. This is a video review. Then his his marketing website with all the landing pages is here in position 4. Then his normal website that he's had for eons, the eSullivan.net, this is a CPA site solution site, is position, 5. And so from a real estate standpoint, again, up here is the Google AdWords. He's got this covered. He probably has 40, if not 50% of the space on this page, something about him, a video, 2 websites, a pay-per-click ad, and by the way, on clicks, these are under $3 a click. And then obviously up here, he stands out in terms of local search results. And some of you may look and say, hey, Jeff, there's some more CPA link down here. Let me show you how this works. If you click here, now the 3-pack turns into, I don't know what it is, a 20-pack. But it's the same thing. Instead of the top 3, now it's going to show based on the geography. It's going to show everybody else. And you can see here, Paul has a distinct advantage. The next CPA firm has no reviews. Second one, no reviews. Caldwell, no reviews. BizWise, 2 reviews. Good thing for him, you have to have 5 reviews to start getting stars to show up. So I've scrolled down to the next page. Water, none. Force, none. Romano, none. Same thing. All these people don't have any reviews, and so it's no wonder. And now this is really about the 3rd page. The Golden Group has 13 reviews. But they're down so far, and I really can't give you an explanation as to why this is, but they're down so far that hardly anybody ever finds them. Or if they do, and if they compare them to Paul, if you look at their page, this is kind of a flash, shot of their Google page. It shows their reviews, 46, 41 Montgomery. And if you look here, the street view is actually, it looks like a parking lot, and it says for lease. That's not a good thing. You kind of think that maybe the business is gone. But they're literally a block away from Paul. Paul is right here, and here's his street view. And we can click in on that, and you can see that. But also we've filled out his Google business listing. It's got photos. It's got a logo. It's got his picture. It's got the staff standing out front. And then obviously this looks a little bit better. You're kind of at the mercy of what Google snaps a picture of. But you can see here we've got multiple pictures of the office, staff over the years. And so it looks like a real business, and it looks pretty professional. Somebody isn't at risk choosing him to pick up a phone and call them. Down here, nothing is shown, and it's blank. They basically have the default picture of the parking lot. So anyway, this is what it looks like, and this is how it works. Well, let me give you another example. Maybe.
Okay. Got it. Thank you. Bye.
Brooklyn, New York. CPA firms. One of the people that jumped on the call happens to be from Brooklyn. And so here, a little bit different layout. You do have a Google AdWords ad up here, but nothing on the right. And then you've got the 3-pack. So if you're in Brooklyn and you can get into 3-pack, you really don't have any kind of competition. No reviews, no reviews, no reviews. If you click on the more listing, it zooms in here to Brooklyn. This is Kings County. And you can see here 4 reviews, 2 reviews, no reviews. Nothing stands out. You have to scroll down a long way to get to Julie Vyman on Avenue U. She's got 8 reviews, 4.9 stars. That's great, but she's not in a 3-pack. And so at any rate, the goal is to get into 3-pack so people don't even go here and look, because when they start to look, if somebody's filled out these, which they haven't, you're getting basically street view pictures. People aren't going to choose them. Let's see what Julie does. Yep, she's got some photos, all the reviews. Look at those. That's great. So her goal is to actually do some more SEO type of work in Google to make that work. So here's a distribution. We think that now the 7-pack has gone down to 3-pack. If you're in the 3-pack, you can get as high as 70% of the calls, especially if you're differentiated through stars and reviews. The second listing is probably only get 15%. Third listing is probably only get 10%. And then the more CPA, as we saw there, is going to be somewhere down in the 5% range. Again, most people aren't going to click there if they see something that they like up here. And this is important because these reviews, they're instant social proof. It gives people the thought that, boy, if they all like this particular CPA and accountant, then I'm okay choosing them. So it's a decision-making shortcut. And actually, these percents may be higher if your reviews and scores are that much better compared to your competition, and that's the goal there. So, and here on the call, I guess let me explain this. I talk about how to get thousands of dollars in free advertising. This is the value that Google places on these clicks. And what I did is went into the keyword planner in Google. If you have a Gmail account, this is free. But you can go in here and you can click on different areas and you can actually go in and look at these different results based on the city, where you live, the DMA, and things like that. And so here's somebody that was not on the call, but maybe on the call today. Registered. We went in terms of a city. Looks at Austin from a geography standpoint. This isn't coming up for some reason, but at any rate. And then I typed in the keywords, just a couple of them. There are dozens of them, but the top 5 from my experience working with folks: accountant, CPA, bookkeeper, bookkeeping, and tax preparation. Those are the top 5 keywords if you ever do pay-per-click. And from this standpoint, it looks like there's over 1,000 not calls, but searches on this per month. This is what Google tracks, and they estimate that this is the suggested bid or the price if you're going to bid on these in a paid environment. And so in Austin, again, over 1,000 a month on average. Kings County, Brooklyn, New York, very similar, a little bit more in terms of volume. It's right now, we've just gotten into September, and so this is as far back as they go in terms of accumulating, but you can see in July 1,300 searches, June 1,350, 1,100. These may not be exact, but these are Google's estimates. And again, the same thing. 590 are searching for CPA. There's low competition for this keyword. 210 looking for an accountant in Brooklyn. Again, low competition. But because New York being New York, what's there? It's a high, affluent area, high cost of living, and what competition is there? They're bidding a lot, and so these are the prices that Google is suggesting. Last but not least, somebody from a very much smaller city, Sarasota, Florida, they registered for the call, and you can see from this standpoint, there's a lot less in terms of search, but there's still a decent amount. It looks like probably somewhere around 100, 110 searches for these particular keywords. And again, I'm being conservative because in terms of a keyword search, there's probably 100 of them. I know in pay-per-click, we use a good client of mine, again, Paul Sullivan. We have over 800 keyword phrases or combinations that we search on a pay-per-click type of environment. But you can see in Brooklyn, over 1,000 calls a month, and if you average Google's, bid price that they suggest, it's $11 a bid or $13,000 a month in advertising by getting your ad to show like that. Similar with Austin, again, it's over 1,000. They averaged out at 1076 with over 10,000 searches for that, and so Sarasota a lot less. In smaller areas, it's just not as big in terms of a search. But if you're in a large city or you're close to a large city, this is the potential for your ads showing, and in this case, obviously, your Google listing showing something like this. And so if you do, and this is, you guys are whizzes with math. If you're a marketer, you got to be too. For all these clicks or searches, when somebody's taking to a search page, in terms of the whole page, you have to kind of cleave off certain volumes of these clicks or calls. If somebody's looking for something, we estimate that maybe 30% of those are going to the actual pay-per-click ads that sit around. Let me go back through here. And again, there's none here. That's a bad example. But here, Bethesda, 30% of the calls go there, or the clicks go there. Somebody's probably going to click on this 30% of the time. and you can distribute them. Again, I think with Paul, we've got even though we're down in the 6th position, we're going to get clicks because we've tied his Google advertising to his Google account and Google reviews, and so he differentiates himself in terms of a quality accountant. If they don't, we think 40% of those clicks are going to go to the local 3-pack now. And again, that 40 is going to be distributed just between these 3 and here in some fashion. We think the organic results down here, probably going to get another 30%. Somebody's going to click and scroll through. They can go to page 2. Not many people do. And, the 3-pack goes away, but you still get the Google AdWords. Here's a good example. Even though the 3-pack went away, here's Paul in terms of pay-per-click. So we've got him covered there. And then last but not least, down here, page 2, somebody, again, page 2, page 3, and on, they're going to click there. So these calls or clicks are really going to be focused on the 3-pack and in the top position there. And again, this is what we think. The 3-pack is going to have 70% of the calls are going to go to position 1 or the clicks, 15 to position 2, 10 to position 3, and maybe 5 to position 4. So when you boil it all down, because I don't want to oversell you on this whole concept, the 1,000 or the 1,100 calls, or again, even more because we're only using just five keywords, is going to boil down to maybe 280 clicks and calls a month. But again, if you're, this is all free on the 3-pack stuff. If you're not paying for it, and you can get 280 calls at, let's say, $10 a piece, that's close to $3,000 in terms of free advertising. And we know from experience working, especially my experience working with accountants and CPAs over the year, the people actually do call through. So how does this work? How do you get to be somebody like, Paul or Ed Newton or Smead CPA out in the San Francisco area? I can give you lots of examples. How do you get to that point and get your own 3-pack working? Well, we've got systems, strategies, and tools on how to do this. Step 1, you first want to claim or verify your Google listing. And what you want to do, if you haven't done it already, usually you have to go in, sign up, and get a Google account. You go through a verification process, and you complete your listing. Google tells you how much you are completed in terms of a percent. You want to get that up to 100%. Basically, that's things like the business name, address, and phone number, your hours, what category that you're in. Obviously, you're an accountant or a certified public accountant. Photos, exterior, interior, people at work. Google has now places that you can actually upload those, and they categorize them for you. Videos, if you've done any kind of video work, and, they don't have to be professional, but Google wants you to put videos on there so that people can kind of look and have a visual experience of what your facility looks like, what your firm looks like, what the business looks like. And again, some type of graphic or a cover picture, better than the Google Street View, that gives an idea of what your firm looks like. Again, it can be your staff, doesn't have to be, or it can be interior shots, things like that. Step number 2, start to ask for reviews. Now, this sounds obvious and it sounds a little bit self-explanatory, but it's harder than you think. And one of the strategies that we want to employ is that we want to only ask clients that are going to give you 4- and 5-star reviews to actually give you those reviews. At least that's at a starting point. Why? Because Google reviews are forever, and if somebody gets on there and gives you a crappy review, it sits there forever and ever and ever. Obviously, it's not going to kill you. If you're a restaurant, you get crappy reviews, and it seems like people start to gang up on you and complain about the food. Not so much in professional services, but we don't want to tempt fate. And I can give you a real quick example here. Let me click through to Paul. He's gotten 1 or 2 1-star reviews, and this is kind of a tip or a bonus. The way to combat those is obviously to get more good reviews, and so they push the bad reviews down. But when you do get a bad review, and this this Richard Parker person, you respond to it. And you be professional, you explain your side of the situation, whatever occurred, and we actually have found in rare instances, we're once or twice I've been able to get rid of these bad reviews, somebody that wasn't even a client. But I think from an SEO standpoint, when we word this, and I typically help write these, is that we use this from a keyword standpoint. And so there's another one on here. And actually, you can go through and respond to positive reviews too. And so this is all part of Google's algorithm. It knows that you're active on the account, and it helps push you up in terms of the ranking. So again, strategy, ask your best clients for the 4- and 5-star reviews. Don't specifically go out and ask a grumpy or a whiny client, because you'll end up with crappy reviews. You don't want to start off that way. You know, it's worth noting, anybody with a Gmail or a Google account can give you a Google review. And so again, you know, if they look and they find you, they can give you a bad review. You just don't want to invite it. FYI, you do need a Google or Gmail account to give a review. I think it's worth it that if you have a lot of good clients that aren't on Google, obviously, Gmail started off by being invitation only. Anybody can go and get them now. They're free. It only takes a couple minutes to set up. I would encourage good clients to set up Gmail accounts and give you a review. It's worth it in terms of the money and the clients that you can attract from this type of local advertising to try and do that. If you can go out and get a Gmail account, so can your best clients. It's not that hard. It's not rocket science. Sure, I'll give you a review. You'll hear this a lot when you start this process, but a lot of times they never do. And what we found is that it just takes a lot of follow-up. It sometimes takes weeks. It sometimes takes months. It could be years. You don't want to pester people, but at the same time, if they're going to say that they'll do it, then obviously you want to take advantage of that. One of the best strategies to use is that after you've done something for a client, the marketing principle of reciprocation, ask them to give you a review. If you've just done quarterlies for them, or either the monthlies, or you've talked to them on the phone, or there's been some kind of interaction by the staff, or if your staff have contact with clients more than you do, have them ask for the Google review on the phone and then do a follow-up email. One of the strategies and the tools that we use is that for all our clients, we put together what I call an after-visit page. And basically it's an autoresponder where, let's say you get off the phone with somebody and you've talked to them, or your staff's talked to them, you put their name, first name, and email address in there, and then you click enter, and the autoresponder is set up to send out a templated email, but it's conversational, and it says, hey, if you have a chance, can you do me a favor? We're trying to expand the firm. People find us online. Reviews, positive reviews are always helpful. If you can do me a favor, here's my link to my Google Plus listing, and you want to give out the listing. Let me show you how to find it. If you're ever there on your page, it's usually up here in the URL. Sometimes they're hard to find, but that's what you do is you cut and paste that link, and then you put that in the autoresponder or the email and send it out to them. The other thing that we do, and these autoresponders, by the way, we can have them follow up. I think typically we have an autoresponder go out the day that you put it in, 2 weeks later, and then another 2 weeks after that, so almost a month later. And on these emails, we're asking for Google reviews, but we also ask for LinkedIn reviews, Facebook reviews, things like that, Yelp reviews. But we also use monthly newsletters to all clients to ask them for reviews. Don't have one here to show you, but this is obviously a client retention tool, a monthly e-newsletter. Again, you can use any kind of platform. There's lots of them out there. I favor iContact because it's pretty powerful and it's less expensive than virtually all the other services out there. Constant Contact, Exact Target, Infusionsoft, there's a range of them. There's probably hundreds of them out there that you can use, but iContact's a good one because it's got autoresponders and newsletters and even surveys built in. So if you ever have to do surveys, you don't do that. Plus, this is an FYI, we always send out e-newsletters to all your leads that you have in your marketing system, obviously, because you're trying to build a case for them to choose you and give you a call and become a client. So it's a lot more complicated than that, but that's it in a nutshell, and that's a good way to get started. Claim your claim your Google listing, fill it out. You got to have a Gmail account, obviously. Start asking for your reviews from clients. Don't ask the grumpy ones, just ask the good ones to get started. Make sure you follow up with them. You're not asking for a referral. You're not asking for a name of somebody. You're not asking for blood or anything like that. You're not asking for money. This is pretty easy to do. And again, most people will tell you they'll do it, but you got to follow up with them to get them to do that. Now, let me tell you the dirty little secret, or this is the caveat to all this. When you get these clicks through to your site or your listing, right? Whether it's they're seeing you here, because a lot of times they're going to click through and they're going to see a phone number here and they'll call, but that's probably only going to happen 5, maybe 20% of the time that they're actually going to call. It's probably during tax season closer to the 20% if they're looking for somebody. It's probably 5% during the rest of the year from a professional service standpoint. They're going to look around here, see what the reviews are and read. Maybe they're going to go to the website. I guess I should click through and go to the website and show you. This is an example of Paul's marketing website. And you can see it's not his regular website, but what we're trying to do is if they've gone this far, rather than drive them to his esullivan.net site, which has a lot of options for them to just browse around. Let me see if I can show you what that looks like. Yeah. This is his CPA Site Solution site. And you can see it's got a lot of pages, our team, how to hire, which is really us, the marketing website. That's a link back to that. But, there's a lot of information. And what happens, and statistics prove this, is that people will start to bounce around for this free consultation, very similar to what we're doing. A lot of people have this. But a lot of times you'll just kind of float around, you look, and if you don't see anything you like or nothing stands up, you're on to the next website or your, life or whatever distraction or project is, get you off of that. Here, on his site, we've given them a yes or a no choice. Basically, here's a free report, 19 questions to ask before hiring an accountant, bookkeeper, or CPA firm. And in this case, we actually tag a video onto it or an audio report, 3 strategies. This is another free report, how to solve the bookkeeping aspects of your small business. We've got a couple audio testimonials here. I don't think these are going to play through. But we're basically trying to get them to opt in, and when they do, which they do, we've got their email and we can market to them on an ongoing basis. We've got people in Paul's marketing system that have been in there since 2009. Hopefully they're turning into clients, and a lot of them do, but we keep going after them month after month after month, and we have a follow-up sequence. We have 8 or 9 emails that run after just these reports. So at any rate, if your 5% don't pick up and call, the other 95 or 80%, we want them to opt in, and that's what I suggest that everybody use, which is some type of marketing website. You've heard a lot of talk about landing pages. They're basically the same. A bunch of landing pages together is your marketing website. But there's not a lot of information on these landing pages. It's basically an offer for a report. We have 3 or 4 stock reports that we use. You just saw one of them. But the goal is if the local business listing doesn't flash sell them on calling your office, then the website very quickly needs to sell them on either calling, and again, same thing, 5% are going to call if they get to the website versus the 95%, and if they don't do that, you want them to opt in. And so, I've given webinars on this before. If you've heard me talk on Troy's events, rather than having an informational website in terms of just having that drive business to whether it's your Google account or your local business listing or even your Google AdWords, rather than drive them to this type of page, which is what everybody usually sends them to. They usually send them to the index page or the home page. You want to drive them to a functional website that has landing pages with audio testimonials, some type of free report. Again, I always show the 19 questions to ask. We have one for QuickBooks. We have one for bookkeeping, because bookkeeping is actually a little bit more popular in terms of keywords than accountant or CPA. And then we have a follow-up series of emails that follow up with, you've probably seen these from me, and I'll show you an example here as we end this, that say, hey, I gave you the 19 questions. Question number 1 is this. If you have any questions, give us a call. And then 2 or 3 days later, hey, following up a few days ago, we talked about question number 1. Now question number 2 is ABC. If you have any questions, give us a phone call. But these emails and follow-up keep you in front of the person. They keep your name in front of them. It's a little bit of branding, but we're always making offers for things like free consultations on these email sequences. And after 30 days, when they get 7 or 8 or 9 emails from you, then that's the point where your monthly e-newsletter starts to click in. And again, we send those out to all clients. So, last but not least, then, again, you have the newsletters. If you do anything, which I recommend and consult with clients on to have webinars, my goal is to get everybody on once a month so that it's like a speech. You're, listening to somebody talk, just like this is now. This is kind of this is a virtual speech. You're listening to me talk. It's the next best thing for me being up in front of a group of people, a live webinar. And so it builds credibility. Have these once a month. If you can't do them once a month, every other month, that's 6 a year. If you can't do that, do them once a quarter, 4 times a year. If you can't do that, do them every 3 months. Every 4 months. Or if you want, do once every quarter except tax season, that's 3 a year. Webinars are hard to do. There's a lot of platforms that are very inexpensive to do that. And so you want to, do something like that to get them information. I always explain to people from a rotation standpoint, do 1 month where you're doing something on taxes. There's always something to talk about from a tax standpoint. Next thing, talk about something accounting related, that's non-tax. Changes in accounting laws or things that you can do to get deductions or, whatever it is accounting-wise. And bookkeeping-wise. And then lastly, on the third one, if you're doing any kind of investment services or financial services, do one on investments. Right now with the market going in correction mode and going up and down, there's a lot of opportunities to talk about that or just to keep people up to date on what's going on. And again, if you're part of Troy's program under the RIA or the IAR program, he's providing you with content to do that. Physical events, invite them obviously to physical events if you have them. I can think, I'm picking on Ed Newton, he's got something coming up in November. I think he's having a cookout, something like that. There's barbecue and a cornhole toss, something like that. And so we're promoting that for everybody to show up at his place in Charlotte, North Carolina. And then obviously, to have your marketing system in place, you want to perpetually be marketing to them. You can do direct mail. A lot of you on the call, like I said, I think I mailed out some direct mail packages, to grab your attention, to see what I'm doing with other folks and getting on this webinar. Do physical events if you have them, webinars, e-newsletters. Ed Newton, again, I'm picking on Ed as a good example. He's actually doing some radio advertising on the Dave Ramsey show on the local WBT channel, and he's generating We're actually not doing CPA or an accounting leads, but he's actually going after investments cold, but we're generating leads off that. And, invite those people to those physical events. So there's a lot of things that you can do with a functional website to get somebody into your marketing system and then start to, build a case for them to choose you and hire you. You can always point them back to your Google listing, and show the social proof. Try and get, again, as many reviews that you can. LinkedIn recommendations. If you go on my website, I think I've got 15, maybe 18 LinkedIn recommendations. to build credibility so people know that I'm real and I'm not just fly-by-night. But I point them there on my websites. Let me scroll down and see if you can see this. Yeah. I've got audio testimonials from accountants, CPAs, business people that I've done business with and still do business with across the country and locally. And you can go on these pages, you can click on them, and then you can click the play button, and you can hear Ed's voice, you can hear Troy's voice, you can hear Paul's voice, you can hear Jackie's voice, Dave's voice, Mike's voice, on and on and on, to figure out, what they think about me when they worked with me and things like that. So that's how it works. And again, I think I told everybody on the email and the call, I don't have anything to sell, but if you want to see how the marketing system works and you haven't done this before, you can always come to my website on the home page, mynewcpa.com. And this is, as they say in the tech world, I'm eating my own dog food. I practice what I preach. This is my home page. I don't have a bunch of options that you can click on, but I've got an email, first, last name, city, and state. You submit it, you get my special report. I think it's a 12-page PDF. It's been a while since I looked at it, but you get a series of emails, probably 10 or 11 over the course of a month, and, that follow up with you. And, this is good information. If you've done this once before, I think if you do it again, I'm not sure if it's actually going to work. But if you do it and you don't get it, give me a call, and I can reset your name and send that in. And again, same thing. What I've been telling you, not a lot of choices, a lot of testimonials on a landing page, because I want somebody not to browse around. I want them to do one thing, opt in, and get that report so I can market to them. So with that, I think I'm going to open up the lines or the chat. If you're listening on the phone, if you have any questions, just speak up. The lines are open. And if you're listening on the line, there's a chat option. Let me see if anybody has done a chat. No chats. Wonderful. Well, again, if you have any questions, give me a call. The number here locally, 317-674-3335, 317-674-3335. You've got my email address, or, again, you can go to mynewcpa.com, download the report. And if I don't talk to you, have a good Labor Day holiday weekend, and maybe I'll see you on the call or at one of Troy's events. Hi, Julie. I see a chat.
Hi.
How are you? Did you have a question or just wanted to say hi?
Well, not really a question, but I just need some help. So,
well, yeah,
I'm going to need you.
Give me a call. Let me know what's going on. Happy to help.
Okay.
Plus, I can throw a rock at your over at Plainfield, so you're close. That always helps too, right?
Yeah, we have a new office, and you can come over.
Oh, okay, super. Well, we'll start with a phone call first. How about that?
That's good.
Well, if anybody else, again, if you're listening on the replay and you have a question, just give me a call or send me an email, and I'll be glad to help. And thanks again, everybody. Have a good holiday weekend, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye now.